Welcome to the Design Build Institute of America's Design Build Delivers podcast. I'm Kim Wright at DBIA's national headquarters. It's that time of the year when DBIA shares with the world the winners of our National Design Build Project and Team Awards. From aviation to water, wastewater, and every sector in between, these design build teams have proven the power of collaboration and integration can do great things. Today I'm excited to talk to Dr. Barbara Jackson, a DBIA fellow and longtime awards juror and now chair. She's seen a lot of projects over the years and will share some insights into what made this year different. Thank you, Barb, for joining us again this year to talk about DBIA National Awards. We've just come off this year's jury cycle, and I think it's probably perfect timing to talk about why we do this. I mean, why do you think, well, first off, you've been a juror for a very long time and you're the chair. So
yes, I've been at it a long time. It's one of my favorite DBIA activities, as it is for many of the people on the jury. But you know, I've seen it evolve over the years. And yes, we literally just came out of the room from the 2021 project evaluations. We had 69 projects this year, which is fantastic considering the COVID challenge that we've all been under. Yeah. So yeah, I've been at it a long time. I love it. I've been the chair for a number of years, and like I said, one of my favorite activities.
Why do you think these awards are important? I mean, there's a million probably different answers to this, but it is important. These teams make a big investment, not just in their project, but when they try to tell us about their project.
Yeah. So the awards in general themselves, like, so why? Just to have accolades? Well, that's of course part of it. That's part of, you know, business development and everything else, that we're out there trying to sell work, and if we're known for having award-winning projects, well, it makes a difference for clients who are unfamiliar with us, or even those who are familiar. So that's one reason it's important. It's important from the submitter's perspective. But the other thing is, I mean, there's many, but another is, you know, peer recognition. It's a peer-to-peer competition. Every project is different. Every client is different. We've got multiple categories of projects, and they compete within their own category primarily until we get to the big awards, what we refer to as sort of the best in teaming, best in process, best in technology, best in design architecture, best in design engineering. So what is that about? That is peer-to-peer, okay? We're out there in the industry, we're getting work, we're doing work, and we're completing projects. But the important thing there is for us, when I say us, I'm talking DBIA really, is, you know, we use the awards program to, number one, elevate those submitters and those companies and those members or even non-members who are submitting. So that's one thing. But the other thing is it's educational. It's been a magnificent mechanism by which the DBIA has actually elevated the performance standards that our practitioners utilize or work to achieve on these projects. So when you've been on the committee for a long time, the thing you notice is where you were 10 years ago and where you are today, for example. And where we are today in terms of the quality of the submissions, which means the quality of the project and the project performance, is elevated beyond belief. We were just having a conversation just a few minutes ago in the meeting. At the end, we always kind of debrief and do that sort of thing. But you know, where we're at is we have clearly raised the bar for the performance on all projects, at least the ones we get to see. So those 69 projects, the bar has been elevated. What might be a score of 4, which means average, like average in whatever question we've asked you, and your performance in that area is average. That average today, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, was superior. So what we're seeing is everybody's gotten up to that stage to where now that is the new that's what's expected.
It's such a reflection of the industry, the growth that the industry
the industry itself. And so when I say what's important about the awards is this is the mechanism by which DBIA has utilized to advance performance in the entire industry. And, it starts with the design, build, done right. So at first you're trying to get everybody to catch up to design, build, done right from design, build, done not so right. So we got that, we're getting that accomplished, or pretty much got that accomplished. So we kind of get that now. And now it's like taking it to the next level. It's so rewarding to see where we are, right? To see what's happened over these years. But it's raised the bar for everyone. And remember, this is a competition. So our industry loves competition. We're used to competition. Yeah. We may razz each other over our projects, and we arm wrestle in those meetings, I'll tell you right now, as to who's the winner, and strong debate and, promotion of one project over another, but strong, serious, but strong and friendly, always friendly. But it's a serious evaluation for us. We really want to elevate excellence in all categories of design build, and we're seeing that everything is elevated to the point where, okay, where are we going to take the bar next? And that's kind of where we ended today's meeting, for example. Where do we take the bar next? So we're having conversations about that. But again, what's the importance? This has been a fantastic mechanism for raising the bar, right, for getting people educated, for helping them understand the nuances of this process. So we've kind of gone from just using words like, well, we collaborate and we communicate, to the deep, deep nuances of how you do that, how you select and how you evaluate, and the pre-planning that goes into picking a team, and what are the criteria and metrics by which you want to measure the team's performance. So it's no longer just budget, schedule, quality, and safety. It's much more than that. And this is what I love about it is, the nuances were beginning to unfold. They're becoming more revealed, and that becomes the distinguishing factor in a superior and an average, for example, right? Yeah. Or average, above average, excellent, superior, right? So what is it? When you can start to not only articulate, and what we're anticipating or expecting is you're articulating because you actually executed it, right? Mm-hmm. And when you execute it, and then you can tell us how you did it, what does that mean? That means you can repeat it again and again and again. And you can teach it. Yeah. You can teach it and improve it. But that's the nature of, frankly, education. You got to be able to articulate it. You got to be able to then repeat it, right? Consistently performance. And then all of a sudden it becomes the new way of doing business. And for me, design build has always been how to do this better. And building a better way. And that's what it's always been about. And I think, again, for me, that's what keeps it all alive, and why I love this particular group of folks and this committee is that, how do we do this better? How do we do this better? How do we do this better? And we're seeing it. We're not just talking about it. We're seeing it.
You said the last several years consecutively that there's always something new. Somebody has found a little twist, a little something that is new to a group of professionals. The jury is not newbies. These jurors, you've all been around a good long time. And so for consistently year after year to see something new, that in and of itself is impressive. Yeah.
And the new is, again, this is something that continues to evolve. And that's what we want. We want increased performance, increased execution, increased application, all of those things. And being on the jury, you get to see that. You get to see it in real projects, all different sizes, small projects, large, huge projects, transportation, wastewater, vertical construction, horizontal construction, commercial building, federal, state, municipal, whatever it might be. But we get to see it elevate across all of those different categories.
even when I first started sitting in on jury meetings, which, was 5-6 years ago, we would still hear talk about cost and schedule. That is an assumption now. There's literally very little breath wasted on cost and schedule because everything that you're judging has excelled in the area of cost and schedule.
Yeah.
It's just, not that it's not important, obviously.
It's fundamental.
Right.
So you got to get there.
Right.
You can't even be in the game unless you can deliver cost, schedule, and budget. Cost, schedule, and quality. If you can't do that and do it safely, you can't even be in the game. So what we're getting at, it's kind of like, well, thank you for sharing, right? But so what? Tell us the rest of the story. And the rest of the story, it's what's becoming, we're really delivering performance way beyond what was the benchmark 10 years ago, decade, 2 decades ago, whatever. But that is not the story anymore.
Right.
That's a given. So part of what we're getting to see is what's the next story. And, there's one particular award, for example, that's identified as the Chairman's Award. And that one, for example, starts to look at performance beyond budget, schedule, quality, and safety. But it's about impact. It's about what we call the triple bottom line. What's the environmental impact? What's the social impact? What's the economic impact? All of that, because when we can find new metrics, again, where did this all start? Design, bid, build. What the heck was the metric? The metric was, are you cheap enough? Yeah. Are you a low bidder? Okay, you're in, right? That was the end of the story. Well, now we're at a stage where, it's delivering budget, it's delivering schedule, it's delivering quality, and at a performance standard that a client is expecting. And not only that, on top of that, we're adding value in budget, schedule, and quality. So added beyond the expectation. And now we're taking it to a whole new level. So the whole new level is, thank you for sharing again, but what impact is it having? Because remember, we're in the business of the built environment. Business, that's the business we're in. So what's the influence all of this has? For years and years and years, I've always said, when people say this is just construction, I say, are you kidding me? Do you know that nothing exists in a society without what we do, without the AEC industry, without the design and the construction and the engineering and the execution of all that? Well, there we go. So if nothing exists without us, then what's the impact of what we do have on all of that? And now we're beginning to have a different conversation about, so when this new bridge goes in, what's the impact to this community, to the traffic counts, to the safety of people driving on the roads? When this new building goes up, when this new hospital is built, when this new school is built, that's not the end of the story.
Right,
the end of the story is the influence that has, an impact that it has on all of the people, functions, ecosystems all around it. So it's a different world.
And design builders, and we saw this when we were looking at these projects, they clearly understand full well that it's just deeper than the building or the bridge. They are looking for those ways, for those added value that they can provide to the community or in whatever way.
And the design build process, what we've always said, design build right, when it's done right, what we have is an opportunity to optimize solutions and to add value and all of that. And and we've said that forever. And at one time that meant the project came in less costly. We finished it 2 months early. That was the value we were adding. Tremendous value, by the way. Wonderful. But now it's beyond that. Not only did we do that, but because of that, it influenced this. Or we were able to increase, the number of folks who could get from point A to point B earlier in the year. So it's no longer just narrow around the project impacts. It's beyond the project impacts. And this is what I mean about the opportunity now to leverage design build done right. So when it's kind of, let go of the Kraken. The Kraken is now released to where, what is it we can provide? And I want you to, everyone really needs to think about the impact this has on the people working on these projects. It's just construction, really. Well, here's the thing. Here's one of the comments, for example. Getting to work that we read on one of the projects, and this was a project that at different points of time had peak workers in the counts of 850 people on a given day. Big project, as you can imagine. But imagine 850 people making some version of this statement. The opportunity to work on this project is an opportunity of a lifetime. This is a career-changing opportunity that I've gotten to be involved with this project. And that, we've got comments like that all over these submissions. People saying, that it was the best project I ever worked for. Mm-hmm. Now that I've worked on this project, I don't know how I'm ever going to go back to doing it any other way than design build. We've got clients who say things like, if it weren't for design build and this process, we could have never achieved the goals that we achieved. Mm-hmm. And it's over and over and over again that we're seeing that. So, this is not just about concrete and steel.
Right.
Not at all. This is really about impacts, not just to the client and the end user, but the actual workforce who gets to go to work every day to make a difference. And they know it. They're doing work that matters. And there's nothing, what else can you ask for, right? Than to do work that matters.
Particularly when we see those projects where they're making a concerted effort to hire local, a lot of small firms, a lot of small subs, specialty trades, and they're living in the community that they're serving, and they drive across that bridge to work forever, and they tell their kids, this is the bridge that didn't used to even be here, and we had to do X, Y, or Z to cross, that kind of thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One thing too that I thought was interesting about this group when the jury talked about this, is that there were a number of first timers who excelled. And, traditionally, if you're making that transition to a new way of doing anything, it's hard to excel the first time. But there were a number of first-timers who did that.
Yeah, there was a number of clients who this was their first design-build project. And, they choose design-build for various reasons. But in many cases, this time, it was their first opportunity to use it. And many of them had very, very tremendous success, quite frankly. And they were surprised. So they were surprised by it at some level and elated as well. And this is the thing. Again, it may be scary and it may be, a bit of the unknown and all of that. But in them taking that risk, and they see it as a risk, trying something new that they're not accustomed to, they see it as a risk, but they took it. And why did they take it? Number one, they're not satisfied with the outcomes that they've been having. That's one thing. But the other thing is what they're out for now is more challenging to achieve. What they're out for is bigger stuff. And it may seem like a little project, but the bigger stuff is we've got a limited budget, or we're on a tight time constraint, or these regulations or whatever, and we don't really know how to get to the point where we can, in the realm of these regulations, how we're going to achieve these goals. They're now learning that by becoming a partner with your design and construction team, you can do it. That's all you need to do is literally come together to be able to address these things, and the fear kind of can dissipate. And it's just a fascinating thing to watch. And that, again, is what we're seeing more and more of. Instead of coming at each other like a design build team and a client or an owner or agency coming at each other from the perspective of having to protect each other from one another, they're literally saying, well, look, this is the challenges we've got before us. We need to go at this together. And if we go at this together, can we achieve this? And, you've got very experienced design builders in some cases where they're saying they have no doubt it can be achieved. And what's fascinating to watch is owners who are beginning to let loose that fear factor just enough to see that, oh my goodness,
yeah,
who knew? Who knew we could have such an experience? Now, I'm not suggesting every single project is going that way, but I can tell you, when you look at 70 projects a year,
yeah,
and 90% of them are going that way, that's telling you there's a shift in the mental perspective of this process. Not just this process, it is the process, but it's the people involved in it. That they're not there to trick you or whatever the old perceptions might have been. These are people committed to doing work that matters. You are the source of them being able to do that work that matters. They can't do it without you, and you can't do it without them. That sets up an opportunity to really just optimize, but not only that, create results that nobody thought was really possible. So you're always in that environment. Think about it. What happens in that kind of environment? You exceed expectations. You go for what's needed, but in the collaboration, in the communication, in the integrated thinking together out loud, in the connecting the dots of this versus this versus this, in the notion of looking at risk and then looking at how to mitigate those risks against what you're trying to achieve, magic happens, because they're going to open up opportunities to just excel and deliver way beyond. And this is it's like any team, if you are involved in sports or anything like that. I know I've talked to enough athletes when they tell me there's something about it when you're kind of in that zone of discovering what to do next or how to win this or beat this or whatever. It's the same kind of mentality. You don't see it until you're in it. And that's the power of design build is in that engagement. It's not like you sit back and figure it all out. You figure out everything you can, and then you get in there and you open up your eyes and your communication and all of that. And what happens is you begin to discover ways of doing things or approaching things to where you go, hey, and if we did that, we could even do better. We could have more. We could do this. And we're going like, oh, look at that. And you could never see it by yourself. And you can't see it before you get into it.
Yeah, you can't come up there on your own.
You can't get there on your own.
As someone who has been educating and training and preaching on making that mental shift for your entire adult lifetime, I would think that seeing it get to this level has got to be satisfying. Because you remember when it was not anywhere close to this. People kind of thought you were being kooky trying to get them to talk about making that mental shift.
Yeah, and I'm about ready to create a Making the Mental Shift 2.0, quite frankly, because I really have seen a shift.
Yeah.
A shift in the thinking, a shift in the collaboration. And the way I say it, it's like some of the constraints, those mental constraints that people have had, in terms of not letting to, not being too transparent, not being, to provide too much information, or not, in other words, being more guarded. Mm-hmm. So they're more and more guarded, or they were more and more guarded, and to see some of that guard come down and kind of, again, take a step forward to open up a little bit and to engage a little bit. And this is the thing. I've always said, knowing how never made a difference. Jumping in and saying, we can do this makes a difference. You don't need to know how to do every single thing in order to take it on.
Right.
And a lot of design build success is about willingness to take it on together.
Yeah.
Versus you do your part and you do your part.
And that kind of segues to what I was thinking about too, about this particular group of award nominees and ultimately winners. The jury talked a lot about owners showing an impressive amount of growth. And we've talked about how important it is for the owner to be ready to do this and embrace this. You can't say I'm just doing design build, but then really not giving over any control whatsoever. How important is it what the group saw this year in seeing significant growth in our owners?
Well, again, it's very, very important. As a matter of fact, one of the things we discussed is in the future, we think we'd really like to start recognizing owners who have really, when I say stepped it up, I don't mean stepped it up out of effort, but stepped it up in terms of openness to letting the process actually work at its highest level. So again, openness in terms of becoming more a part of the team, more transparent with information, more collaborative in solution finding versus just having the answers. And this is the thing. Everybody doesn't have the answers. I've always said again that the best design build teams, including the client, is not the one who comes in the room with all the answers. I'm telling you, if that's what you're looking for, the ones that have all the answers, then you're going to be limited in what they can achieve. But when you have people who are willing to discover a solution together, everyone's experienced it.
Right.
You've experienced that sense of you didn't know how to do something, or that aha moment when you go to sleep and you can't figure out a solution, but there it is at 3 o'clock in the morning. You wake up and you go, oh my goodness, there it is. That's the nature of a design build team. The challenge is there. We know how to do what we know how to do. And then we're going to have some challenges that we don't know. But for me, it's like, and we'll figure this out, which is hard for some people to hear. But that's the piece of letting go a little bit. Letting go a little bit so that you can begin to discover solutions that otherwise could have never been seen. And that's why some of these clients, some of these owners now are getting, I mean, talk about added value, a bigger bang for the buck. It's unbelievable, the performance. For example, I'll give you an example. So one of the projects we saw, the tremendous integration of the team and all the tools and techniques they put together in the teaming part and the process part and all of that resulted in a return of 75% of a jointly developed contingency that reinvested back in the project in the millions and left surplus. And you could argue that that was, oh, they just didn't calculate the contingency correctly. That was not so, because the entire team jointly developed the contingencies that realistically, like right now, that's what we have to look at. But as they saw that on another board, they had the goals for added value. So you got this here and the added value, and you say, you know, if we can manage this risk, then what we have the opportunity to produce is this benefit. And they're going for the benefit, and they know the way to get there is to manage that risk. So think about the state that people are in when they know that, and they know it in advance. It's proactive, not reactive, proactive. When they know that in advance, their brains are just on fire trying to figure out how do we best manage this risk. Everybody's jumped in. And the clients in there with you,
right?
You know, they're just part of it. They're beginning to roll up their sleeves and say,
because they want it.
Because they want it. Yeah. But it's, when I say that, it's like, even if it's just figuratively rolling up their sleeves, but that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing, Kim.
Yeah.
These owners are now saying, okay, they're saying things like, we don't want to interfere with where you can take this project, so we're going to have less documentation. We're going to be fully transparent, but let's leave it as open as possible. You know, we identify our program and all of that, but let's not restrict this team. And they're kind of like rolling up their sleeves and let's say, how's this process? Show us how it really can work. And some of these teams are going, oh my goodness, let's show it. Let's do it. And it's, I mean, comments from owners like this. I was stunned at the first meeting by how open and communicative the design build team was and how attentive they were to listening to every idea we had. That's a client comment who is a design build skeptic who has now submitted a project for consideration for a DBIA award. That's amazing. And that's a client who was a skeptic, first-time client. So what does that tell you? That tells you that they're kind of like, all right, let's give this a shot, but do it the right way versus trying to hold on to all the old process, right? You're trying to hold on to all those fears and all those concerns and all of that and think you're going to get an optimized approach to design build. We're not seeing that now. We're seeing, they're loosening the reins a little bit and it's paying off for them in big time. Because, if you're working with a design build team that is, DBIA certified and, they have multiple years of experience in the design build process, they have multiple projects under their belt, that fear factor should reduce.
Yeah.
Because these are the pros. In any other business, you hire a pro, you trust the pro. Right?
You hire a plumber for a reason.
Yes.
You hire a doctor for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me an idea. I think this is a good, nice wrap up. When you think about, and particularly thinking about the group that you just saw, when you think about what makes a DBIA National Award winner, what are those shared characteristics that probably best describe this group?
So when you say this group, you mean this group of projects?
We know who's won. You know who the winners are this year.
I do.
Which we're not going to talk about.
No, we're not going to talk about that.
But you know who they are. When you think of them as a collective group this year, how would you describe them?
Wow, great question. Here's the way I would describe this group of winners, okay? This is a group of winners that very distinctly let the reins down. They very, very distinctly said, we're gonna even further trust this process. We're going to prescribe even less. We're going to engage heavier with this team or more actively with this team, and we're gonna leverage it. We're gonna leverage the process. So that is the one thing I can tell you. That's why I'm saying we're now thinking, this is time to consider some kind of recognition in the future of owners who have kind of stepped over the threshold. Years ago, Dave Crawford, who was with Sun Construction, a former chairman of our board, right? He said, you got to jump in with both feet. You can't stick a little toe in design build and expect to get the optimum results. Well, what we're seeing, and the thing I'll tell you, is this group have stepped in with both feet. They're no longer a toe in it. They're beginning to really open up. And that's why we're getting those comments like, their ability to hear us and listen to our ideas, and people are no longer as fearful of saying, I don't think that's going to work. But it's not a battle. It's like the battle and the fight for my way is diminishing.
Right.
And what's increasing is the battle for the right way.
Right.
The best way.
How do we get there?
The optimized way versus, so another way to say that might be it's no longer about a single person or a single group of people that we win, you lose. It's much more about, okay, it is about the project. And that is something, there's some stories behind some of these projects that are just unbelievable stories. And that's become the motivator.
Right.
The motivator is like, we're willing to take more chances now because the stakes are higher. And that's kind of what we're seeing. And I'll tell you, it's like again, they're rolling up their sleeves, they're jumping in with both feet. That's how I would characterize this group.
Well, we get to see them and meet them all at the Design Build Conference at Expo in Denver on November 2nd. We'll also live stream it too for those who are doing virtual. And we always rail Barbara up on stage. It's her final act is share, whether she likes it or not. We make her do it. So but I love that event. I mean, I do love that event. It's exciting. It really is.
It's very exciting, and it's a way to celebrate again, not just the individual projects, but the advancement of the process and design build in general. It really, really is. And it's building a better way. Yeah. It just is. And that's also what we're celebrating at that event. I love it as well. And, I just think it's a lot of fun. And just to shake the hands of all those individual people and to see the grins on their face, for heaven's sakes. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. They've invested a lot of their life in these projects. And it's just fun to see them celebrate together as an industry. So, well, thank you, Barbara. Appreciate it. So you've heard it directly from a longtime awards juror and chair. There isn't really a secret to winning a DBIA National Award because it's something good design build teams have known all along. Design build done right, best practices work. Not only that, teams are taking those basics and building on them, taking design build delivery to exciting new heights. We hope you'll take a moment and meet this year's National Merit winners at dbia.org/awards. Then join us in Denver at the Design Build Conference and Expo, where we'll recognize these winners and name the excellence winners in each category and the Project of the Year. Do you have a project that could be a contender? Go ahead and enter your project into the Design Build database today. Then you can build on that entry when next year's award process opens. Go to projects.dbia.org.